Ever since I was a little kid, Nintendo has always been my go-to source for gaming. Growing up playing N64 and Game Boy, and supporting them all the way through to the Switch, they've been a huge part of my life for so much of it. Naturally, I went into 2020 having high hopes as always. Breath of the Wild 2 was teased, Animal Crossing was coming out, there was a second Fighter's Pass to be revealed, Metroid Prime 4 is that game ever coming out? No? Okay. Regardless, it was setting up to be a good year for Nintendo. After all, they would have to compete with the upcoming next-gen offerings from Sony and Microsoft, so obviously, they had an all-time great year in response. Before I get into it, I'd like to mention today's sponsor. If you're like me, you spend a lot of time in front of screens. Whether you're online watching YouTube, playing video games, doing homework or research, the average person these days spends hours a day looking at screens. During this time, we're exposing our eyes to blue light that can cause eye strains, itchiness, headaches, and sleep issues. I personally noticed that when I did work or played a game right before bed, it would be harder to fall asleep due to eye strain. That's why I started using GMG Performance eyeglasses whenever I'm having long sessions at the computer or in game. They help reduce my eye strain, improve my concentration, and believe me when I tell you that when I wear these before bed, falling asleep has never felt easier. They look sleek as well, have a variety of models, feel durable, there's no tint that changes how you see the screen, and have a really nice case to store them in between sessions. I really can tell the difference and I want you guys to experience it as well, so check out the link in my description because GMG is offering a huge 50% off discount for Black Friday. It's the best deal of the year and it ends November 30th, so don't miss your chance to get a pair for half off by clicking the link in the description. Okay, let's get back to the video. I never thought that I would be making a video that is criticizing Nintendo this much, but let's be real, 2020 has thrown us so many curveballs that it almost just makes sense. I'm gonna break this down into 4 major talking points, so let's just get into the first one. I think it has to do with a game called Super Smash Bros. So, if you haven't heard, Nintendo recently shut down a major Melee tournament called the Big House. They received a cease and desist saying that they didn't have permission to broadcast the event due to the use of Slippy. Slippy is a project that improves Melee's online scene by adding replays, matchmaking, and most importantly, rollback netcode to ensure the smoothest connection possible. Nintendo saw that this was infinitely better than their online service, so I guess they got butthurt and shut down the event. Well, it was because they claim piracy, but if you look into it, Slippy isn't illegal. You don't need to pirate Melee to play Slippy, it's a legal mod, and it's also legal to rip discs and make backups. Nintendo has failed before when trying to fight this issue in court, and even though Big House seems to be in their rights, Nintendo has the final say about their game that they don't even sell anymore, and the entire event has been killed. Great job, Nintendo. You get to preserve a game you no longer offer to the public, and simultaneously damage a passionate, fan-driven community that you hate to support. Okay, Nintendo, so you don't want us using emulators. So, why not just sell us the game? Here's the thing, the vast majority of emulated games that people play are games that Nintendo no longer sells. I'm talking the Wii era and anything prior. Melee is obviously a big one, Pokemon as well. But in my personal opinion, there's no damage being done here. If you're willing to play a game how Nintendo wants you to, you would have to buy the console and buy the game. Makes sense, except for the fact that it fucking doesn't. All of these consoles and games are no longer being sold directly by Nintendo. Any GameCube or copy of Pokemon Ruby that you find is on resale, and by purchasing it, you're only helping the pockets of a random seller, not Nintendo. Now, I can understand Nintendo cracking down on someone for pirating Breath of the Wild, because they sell that game directly, and it's on their current gen console. For them to get this pressed about someone emulating McKids on the NES is ridiculous. So yeah, if you really want us to stop emulating, then why not sell us the games? Okay, you want games? Fine. Here's Mario 3D All-Stars. Awesome. Thank you, Nintendo. Until March 31st. Wait, what? Yes, in a move that only Nintendo can pull off, they had in fact began reselling old favorites on the Switch, but with a limited release window. Hilariously enough, Mario 3D All-Stars uses the same emulation that they fight so hard against. Sometimes I think it was intentional, as if to say, since you like emulators so much, here, you can have them, for $60. and no bonus features. Oh, and to all you Super Mario Galaxy 2 fans, we have awesome news for you. Just kidding, your favorite game is neglected. And on March 31st, they'll all be erased from your mind forever. Now, if Nintendo had a logical explanation as to why the thing that they try to prevent the most is being prevented for a limited time only, I'd give them a listen. But no, they've given no reasons whatsoever, which seems to be more of the norm these days with their general communication. Not a single appearance by Doug Bowser, and randomly announced games out of nowhere have had Nintendo fans wondering what 2021 has in store. Well, we know what April doesn't have in store, because that's when Mario dies. Oh, you don't like our business practices? That's okay, because we have the one thing that you people could never hate. Our games. Nintendo may have made some questionable business choices this year, but as always, the games have been fire. In fact, I've been playing so many games that my Joy-Cons have begun to drift uncontrollably, which in my opinion, just adds to the challenge of speedrunning Mario Odyssey. One of the biggest criticisms that Nintendo receives daily is the issue of Joy-Con drift. In pairs across the world, players are experiencing their control sticks having unavoidable drift, making any movement-based game near impossible depending on how bad the drift has gotten. Man, consistent global controller issues on their main console, Nintendo must be all over that, right? No, they act like it doesn't exist. According to them, it's not a real problem and hasn't caused a single person any inconvenience. Yeah, I mean I could harp on about this, but it's basically the equivalent of Nintendo putting their fingers in their ears and screaming, "I can't hear you," over and over. Nintendo's 2020 has been a mess on the business end, and a lot of die-hard fans are starting to turn on them. But at the same time, many fans are willing to support Nintendo despite these choices still, because they love them so much. I just want the magic of Nintendo to return. That feeling that it's not a bunch of corporate people in business suits, but fellow gamers and kids at heart running a game company. I just didn't feel any of that classic Nintendo style this year. But I did see a lot of questionable practices. Let me know what you guys think of Nintendo this year in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching. I've been working with a network called UCast Studios to create a podcast channel that I upload weekly to, so that will also be in the description in case you want to hear more of my ramblings. Have a great day. Deuces! There is no Joy-Con drift in Ba Sing Se.